What's up, everyone? Travis and Jon here with another episode of the Amazing Elbow Tight Podcast. Jon, how was that episode? We literally just got done with it. I'm not even lying to you. I'm like, that was amazing. This is such a good episode. Like, knowledge bombs, laughter. Like, it was so good.
It felt like he was a friend that I didn't know I had.
I know. I was like, I felt like a little connection.
Yeah,
like
right?
with him. It was. I'm telling you right now. We say it about every episode. Like this. Oh, this is my favorite episode. But like that was so much fun.
It's definitely in the top 5.
Yeah, definitely. And it was a short episode. It wasn't even that long either. It's like what, an hour?
Yeah,
a little over an hour, if that. And I was like, we could keep going. There's like so much stuff. But he's such a busy man. He had to go. He only allotted a certain time for us. But
look,
if he wants to come on again, I'm going to ask him, like, yo, you want to come on again? You could totally come on the show.
I've already sent him like a Facebook friend request, and Instagram, like, come on, man, talk to me more. But I got to tell you, like, the information he was putting out was so good. I wanted like a pen and paper, like.
Yeah, well, good thing it's on audio.
I wanted to write it down.
Yeah, well, there's an audio version.
I'm old school.
You listen to audiobooks.
No, I don't listen to audio.
You listen to podcasts. Listen to our podcast.
Podcast is not an audio book, though. You know what I'm saying?
Listen,
there's refinement when you read books.
Oh my God! All right, here we go. Anyways, so. Jon, what was some of the stuff we covered today, actually?
Oh, man, we talked about strength training, endurance, some of the best ways to get fit for Jiu-Jitsu, injury prevention. We talked about a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, it was I felt like I thought it was going to be kind of heavy into the science, and I was going to get lost in it, but no, man, it's really good. Like, he breaks it down probably the best he could. It's fantastic. The part I did get lost in is he dropped so many dang names at the beginning of the episode when he's talking about all the people who used to strength and condition train. I was getting glossy. I was like, I don't even know who most of these guys are. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I should probably go listen back to it and write them all down really quick, because he goes fast. He drops names left and right. I'm like, who is this guy? I'm like, holy crap. You know what I mean? But it was great, man.
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that. That was a good one.
Yeah. So, Jon, what we got for our beverage of the day then?
We have Incline Cider Company, Marionberry. I thought for one, it was delicious.
This is amazing.
It kind of reminded me of a grape Jolly Rancher without all the sugar.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
That's what I was getting. I was like, man, you only brought us one each. That's sad.
I know, but I could have totally. It's 6.5%. I could have totally been like hammered by now. We joke about that with Chad too. Chad does used to do a podcast. Well, he's going to start it back up. It was what was it? Brews with Chad.
Beers
with Chad. And he was talking about, he's like, man, I've been drinking so much lately. I got to slow down. I was like, that's why we only bring one into the podcast room.
You know, one of the images I'm thinking, man, I've never seen a guy that's over 6 foot, 300 pounds wear a ballerina slipper.
Yeah. You guys will figure that out in the episode too. Yeah. If you guys don't know nothing about Chad, once again, I don't think we said, but it's Chad Wesley Smith is our guest today. If you don't know nothing about Chad, his accolades are amazing, man. The amount he has accomplished in competitive sports in a number of different disciplines is just astronomical. It's crazy, the athleticism and the amount of success this guy has, on top of he owns Juggernaut Strength and Conditioning or Juggernaut Training Systems. And then, you know, he's just like, it's amazing. It's cool to talk to someone like that. It's kind of like when we talk to Jason, and it's like the accolades and like what they've done and all the cool things that they've experienced. It's like, well, I'm sitting here in a podcast room talking to you about this. Like, doesn't that count for something?
Yeah, I mean, real quick, when I was researching Chad, you know, I came across some quotes he had said that he wanted to be the biggest, the strongest, and the fastest out of anyone, you know. Yeah. And I was thinking, man, he was definitely working all the right things for that. And then he talked about, I think he was in school, and they were talking about David and Goliath, reading the Bible, and you know, they were like, who do you want to be? And it was like, oh, everybody wants to be David. He's the good guy.
I want to be Goliath.
He's like, I want to be Goliath. He's the biggest. And I was thinking, and he's there.
Yeah, it's a great episode, man. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. I don't see how you couldn't enjoy this episode. It is amazing, man. Also, some housekeeping stuff. Make sure you guys follow us on Instagram at Elbows Tight Pod. Like our Facebook page, Elbows Tight Podcast on Facebook. Follow us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment down below. Down in the description below, we'll have all of the information of all our social media. And yeah, that's it, right?
That's it, man.
All right. Well, hopefully you guys enjoy this episode of Elbows Tight Podcast, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks, guys. Peace.
Later.
Welcome everyone to another episode of Elbows Tight Podcast. It's your host Travis and John. John, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. How you doing?
I am doing great. We have the fantastic Chad Wesley Smith on the show today. How you doing today, Chad?
Good, gentlemen. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for coming on, man. I'm super excited about this. We've been doing a little bit of research on you and trying to make sure that we're not just another boring interview for you.
All right.
I'll tell you what, Chad, while I was stalking you, we have a lot of the same things in common.
All right. Sounds good.
We both love Perth. We both like Mexican food.
Yes,
so,
yes.
We're doing good so far.
So, before we go any further, Chad, hey, what do you got for your beverage of the day today?
This is a Stone. It's called Features and Benefits IPA.
Yes. Yes. Cheers to you, buddy. We were just talking about Stone last episode, actually.
It's one of my favorites. I just got finished spending like 7 months down in San Diego. I think I've had all their beers. I don't understand why they're always upside down on the can, but
yeah, that's a new thing. I think they're trying to play it off like it was a misprint.
They're like, we actually meant to do this. You're like, I don't think you actually did mean to do that. Like,
I guess because if I really, turn it up full Stone Cold Steve Austin style.
Is that the low carb one?
Unfortunately, it is.
That's my favorite one, though. What are you talking about?
Is that the one that you're talking about too?
Yeah. I'm like, look,
it's the first time I had it.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Yeah. What? Can you give us the details on it if you don't mind?
So
it literally is upside down.
Gluten reduced, only 95 calories, 4%. So pretty light IPA. And I was like, I might have to do some work after this.
Well, that's good. Yeah, we were just talking about IPAs last time because one of my favorite is Arrogant Bastard from Stone. I love that one.
There's a special edition. I don't know if they still have it. Stone called Southern Charred, and it is. It comes in like almost like a wine bottle looking thing with a red label, and it's triple Arrogant Bastard aged in bourbon barrel.
Oh my gosh!
It's like 12.5%, but for a 12.5% triple IPA, is pretty fucking good.
Yeah, I've had one bourbon barrel stout before, and I took a drink of it, and I felt the burn as it went down, like I was drinking straight bourbon. And I had one glass, and I was hammered.
You passed out. I remember that. You had the one.
You weren't
and you
there.
Passed.
Listen to this guy. You weren't even there. So, hey, but without further ado, Chad, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to people who might not know who you are?
All right. Well, for the Jiu-Jitsu context of things, I'm a 3-stripe blue belt. Gracie Baja headquarters. I was third at Adult Worlds, whenever the last time they had that was 2019 at blue belt. Third at Worlds and Pan Am's. Strength and conditioning coach for many. I just came out of my garage right now from training Otavio Sousa, Kyron Gracie, Roberto Alencar, Tusa, John Jones's coach, Felipe de la Monica, is our professor at Gracie Baja headquarters, Marco Joka. So I think there would have been about, 19 stripes worth of black belts in the garage
crap.
Right now.
Wow.
Those guys like Romulo Bajal, Felipe Pena, Victor Estima. So been a strength coach for a lot of very top level jiu-jitsu guys, and then myself as a athlete. Besides my illustrious blue belt career, through Olympic standard in the shot put, and then transitioned to powerlifting, where I squatted 970, bench 573, deadlifted 815 for what at the time was the 9th highest total of all time in powerlifting.
Wow.
Raw powerlifting, and professional strongman, and then strength coach for all levels of sports, NFL players, jiu-jitsu, Olympic track and field guys, Olympic bobsled, and of course powerlifting, coach a lot of powerlifters as well.
Yeah, we were listening to your what was it, playlist on Spotify?
The world's greatest hipster. Is that what it was?
No. The strong.
Yeah.
Do you still consider yourself the world's strongest hipster?
I'm not the strong. I'm not near as strong as I used to be, so someone could probably take me out.
But for this context, we'll say yes.
Hey, I was curious when did you? I was reading up. You just cold called a jiu-jitsu place and was like, "I can make you stronger, faster, and better at jiu-jitsu."
Pretty much. So I started my company, Juggernaut Training Systems, 11 years ago. 11 going on 12 now. Wow. And I've been coaching high school football and track for 3 years prior to that. My last 3 years of college, while also competing in track. And then, when we opened the gym, like we didn't have any clients. I wasn't a personal trainer or something like that. I had my football kids that I'd coached, but they were all in season when we opened. So I was like, let's try and, get some more clients. And here in Orange County, California, a real hub for MMA and jiu-jitsu. So it was just kind of like going down the list of calling places. The first place I talked to is OC Muay Thai, and the guy was such a fucking dick to us. And my guy Nate that I started joking around with, we walked out of that little pitch and looking at each other, just like, man, is this what this is about to be like? And the next guy we talked to was a Gigante Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. And I don't really know much about Jiu-Jitsu then. I don't know if I know that much about it now, but sometimes, but I had enough of understanding, obviously, that being strong and well-conditioned is helpful. So talked to this guy on the phone, and he's like, oh yeah, come in and talk to me. And I walk in, and this 6'7", 250, 260 pounds, black belt, Fabio Vilela, Giganchino, is there. And I can tell him, I think I could help you, improve your strength and conditioning for jiu-jitsu. Like, I'll coach you for free. And if you like it, tell your friends, tell your students. And, it was just him for a couple of weeks. And then it starts having Ulpiano Malachias come with him, who runs Gracie Baja Westlake now down in Houston, which is like 900 students or something.
Holy crap.
And then from there, Otavio, Felipe, Chiron, Homino, Felipe Pena, Tusa, Victor Estima, all, at the time, I don't think I really had an appreciation for how remarkable it was. But there would be times in the run up to Worlds and Pan Ams, those last like 3-4 weeks, particularly as people were coming from out of state, out of the country, and these guys were all training jiu-jitsu together at the Gracie Baja headquarters in Irvine, and I was 5 minutes down the road. So, that room of 16 black belts, would train, get lunch, and then come to lift. And so it was like just an absolute room of killers all the time. But to me, I was like, oh, these guys kind of suck at lifting.
Little did you know you had this great resource of knowledge right there, all piled up in your place. That's awesome.
Yeah, and they were always trying to get me back. This is like 2010, 11, 12. Oh, Coach Shed, come on, man, you got to train. You're gonna smash everybody. And I took maybe like 2 fundamentals classes back then, but didn't really want to run the risk of like getting my shoulder, elbow hurt, messing up my lifting. So didn't dive into it. But I wish, with hindsight, that I at least would have just kind of trained, twice a week type of deal, because I was so much more athletic back then, coming off of throwing the shot put for a decade than I was coming off of a decade of powerlifting and strongman. But so when it was time, when I was done powerlifting, it's like, it'd be time for a fun new challenge. Like, I wonder if those guys were right, if I really could smash everybody. So, let's call them up. And it's been awesome to, be on the other side of the coach-athlete relationship with a lot of those guys, and just really love the jiu-jitsu community. So. Yeah.
So you've been doing it for about how long now then?
3 years, I guess 3.5 years, but 2020, between COVID and I was in a Who's Number One flow grappling thing. I ruptured a tendon in my thumb in that, so I had to have surgery and a pin put in there. So between that thumb surgery and COVID shutdowns, and then getting COVID, and I haven't trained a ton, and I probably trained 6 months out of 2020.
Yeah, 2020 definitely was quite a year for a lot of people. So how long did it actually take you to get your blue belt? How long were you a white belt? Because you have so much of an athletic background and you're obviously a larger guy. So did you think that played into you getting your blue belt quicker, or how long did it take you to get it?
I had my blue belt or my white belt I started in September 2017 and I got my blue belt in February 2019. So,
That's
you know,
cool.
not,
Yeah, that's a good time.
yeah, 18 months or so. And because I travel a lot for work, um, I had at least 2 or 3 months in that first 18 months of training where I didn't train really at all. But I also do a lot of privates and stuff. And I'm big now, I'm 300 pounds, but when I started, I was a year out of powerlifting, and that was really a year of very little training of any kind for me. So I was as big as 375 pounds when I was powerlifting. And I started jujitsu at about 365, but not the strength that I had been anywhere near that. So, I really think like a point of diminishing returns or body weight in jiu-jitsu seems like, 240, 250, body type, aside. I guess you got some guy who was like 6'7" or 6'8". He could probably be 300 pounds and it be really advantageous for his game. But, there are so many, as many things as strength could help with at that point. It was hindering me in just the way that I'm 6'1", 6'1", 365 pounds, like,
That's a lot to move
not
around.
flexible with that. And when I came in the first day, Professor Philippe, he said, train like you're weak. And I really took that to heart the whole time from both trying to learn the techniques better and not rely on my strength, and to just not be, an asshole training partner. Cause I figured no one's pumped to train with the 365 pound powerlifter. So I've always tried to be mindful of having a kind of light technical game in training.
Yeah, we were talking to Jason Khalipa on our last episode, and he was talking about him as a white belt. Same thing, right? Is he didn't convey to people his strength, so he was saying, like, I'm sure you can attest to this, like, he would grab people and people would like freak out. They're like, holy crap, what's going on? And they would just like turn it up on him. You know what I mean? Like, did you ever have any experience like that where someone was just like so shocked by you they just went straight offense?
Not so much. I mean, I think most people could tell this guy is enormous. So they knew sort of what they were getting into. And a lot of the higher level guys, they had known me as, well, you're the Juggernaut guy. And even the first day of class, we're going through the line at the end of class, like bowing, shaking hands, and good training. And when, Professor Philippe is like, oh, Coach Shad, good training, I could definitely tell there were people who were like, why is he calling this first day guy coach? Or a couple times where I'd be at tournaments, either competing as a white belt or just there to watch, and people would come and ask for the pictures, but it was because they knew me from lifting stuff. And one of the times I was competing as a white belt, and guys, oh, can I get a picture with you? And I could hear his friends, like, one of the guys taking it, is like, why the fuck do you want a picture with a white belt? I actually really enjoy that, the anonymity part of jiu-jitsu, compared to like going to powerlifting meets and, whatever minor celebrity I may be in that culture. It's kind of nice to just go and be a beginner.
Less pressure, right? You can just have fun.
I would say less pressure, but so the first tournament I ever did was, I'd probably been training for 4 months, and it was just this intra Gracie Baja comp net, they call it. So just all Gracie Bajas, and here there's one in every city in Southern California. So a lot of people, but just a 3-man white belt ultra heavy bracket, and I'm going with the first guy, and like I go for the shoulder throw and don't commit to it and get caught underneath him, and so I lose by like advantage or whatever it was, 5-minute match, and I'm so fucking tired. And with just 3 people, it was like a round robin, so I was going to have to go again in 5 minutes.
Right.
Yeah. And I was dying. I mean, everyone's first tournament, that adrenaline dump, and you're gripping everything way too hard. My forearms are locking up. And this is all Gracie Baja stuff. So everyone that I know, 90% of the people I know from Jiu-Jitsu own their own schools, are world champion, Pan Am champion, black belts. They're all there. Oh, Cochelle, let's go. You're going to smash him. And I lose. And then 5 minutes later, I'm so fucking gassed out from the first one, I lose again. This is so I lose twice. I'm 0-2 in front of the heroes of Jiu-Jitsu. And not only that, I'm coming off top 10 in the world ever in powerlifting. 6 months of competing in strongman to become professional strongman. 2-time college national champion in the shot put. Olympic standard in the shot put. Like every sport I'd ever done, I'd had a great amount of success in.
Right.
And I'm walking away from that thing that night like,
is this for me?
I didn't know I could demote myself beyond white belt, but that was pretty bad.
Give me the pink one.
Yeah. So one of the questions I was going to ask you too is because I know that you've competed at a high level in multiple different disciplines, like you just said. So with that jiu-jitsu, it's funny you brought it up because I haven't competed yet in jiu-jitsu because the first tournament we were supposed to do, I backed out, whatever. But he did it, and he was telling me about what same thing happened to you, right?
Yeah, yep.
So he was like gassed and everything like that. What advice would you give people to kind of stay warm? Because like in weightlifting, right, in like Olympic weightlifting, we do like reps in between, right? There's target numbers that we want to hit before we go to our opener. What would you recommend to people to stay warm in between matches?
Well, I mean, the staying warm in between matches, I think, is so varied because if you're at IBJJF, like a Worlds or Pan Ams, you could have 40 minutes in between. Other times you're going to have 5 minutes in between. So like when it was that first match and I had 5 minutes in between and I was just so adrenaline dump and everything from the first one, I got my coaches like rubbing my forearms to try and get some grip back in it. Then it's just kind of like keep moving. You'll recover better staying walking around than just sitting there. So that's significant. But if you're going to have some more time, and at those big tournaments, I mean, they've got the schedule, but it's always moving and changing. That give yourself 5 or 10 minutes to just walk and rest, and then you could probably sit down for 5 or 10, and then get up, just kind of do some drills and keep moving a little bit. But when you're in the bullpen at those tournaments, you see guys who they're popping around the whole time and they're nonstop, and other guys who just sit there, for an hour in between matches, and then they're up and going. And each side has success, but just from like a sports science standpoint or whatever, staying walking, sipping on water as long as you need to for like your heart rate to come back down post match. Then can sit, maybe, get some fast carbs in you, like a Nutri-Grain bar, Fig Newtons type of thing, sip on a protein carb shake. Depending on how long you have in between, give yourself some time for that. Get up, move around for another couple minutes, relax again, and then just start kind of, walking just to keep blood flowing and whatever you just ate. So it's not just sitting in your stomach, but that's getting out in the bloodstream.
Yeah, I was pretty much in the same boat as you. I was the first match, and I got 5-minute break, and then I was the next match. So I won the first one. When I went at that 5-minute break, I went into the second one. I still didn't have any feeling left, but whatever. I lost that one, but then I had like a 25-minute break before the next match, and I felt totally recovered and ready to attack that last match. So that was good, but I was thirsty. All I could do was drink water. Like when that sucker was over, I was pounding water nonstop. I don't know why, but I was super thirsty.
Well, and I think everyone their first match, I mean, probably even till black belt guys are still kind of blowing their wad in the first couple minutes of that first match, and you get to that, it could be 30 seconds, and then you go out of bounds and they reset you or whatever, and and trying to, control your breathing, putting yourself in situations in training that are more, stressful. Because that's universal across sports. I coached high school football for several years, and we could condition as much as we want during training camp, and we're going to get to that first game, and guys are coming off the first series huffing and puffing. It's like, you didn't do shit, just calm your ass down. So yeah, I think that's a big piece to it. And I mean, you see, just as you train more, like your grips don't wear out as fast, and like, okay, you have better grip endurance, but you're also not over gripping in places that you don't need to. But I had never been as nervous for any sporting competition. This is, competing at the world stage in powerlifting and national stage in track and field. I'd never been as nervous as I was for Pan Am's 2019 Pan Am's. So I'd gotten my blue belt. Well, in January 2019, I had a surgery for an umbilical hernia, and I started training again probably 2 weeks later. And so like surgery about January 15th, start training real light again February 1st. And then like February 20th, something like that, they gave me my blue belt. And then like February 21st was the last day to register for Pan Am's. And I was like, what do you think? He's like, yeah, sign up, and if you don't feel ready, we'll back out. Okay, sign up. It's in 2 weeks, whatever, 3 weeks. Train, feeling good. The weekend before, 10 days before, I'm down on a single on this guy. He turns out heel whacks me right in the lip. Puts my bottom, my bottom teeth through my lip all the way through.
Oh.
Then 4 stitches inside, 5 stitches outside, something like that. So now this is 10 days out, and I'm like, shit, I can't, I don't want to be sticking my face in to train hard. So then we just kind of drill for the next couple days, and I'm going into this thing like, I got my blue belt 3 weeks ago. I haven't been able to train for real for the last week from the stitches. I'm looking at the bracket, I'm trying to look the guys up on Instagram and stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, we did that too.
About that from the other perspective, it's like, oh, they're probably trying to look them up on Instagram too, and I'm likely more intimidating in that sense than most people. So I see, the first match, second match, and then the third. I was like, if I can win 2 matches and make the semis, is against a guy who was defending Pan Am world champion at blue belt, and the only guy bigger than me, Jason Shirley, is like 6'5", 330, played in the NFL. I was like, if I can make it there, that's good. That's a good day. But I couldn't sleep the night before, really anxious feeling for a couple days before it, because in powerlifting, it's simple in the sense that you do the work and you can predict pretty well how much weight you're going to lift. But this is like, you don't know what's waiting for you on the other side, and so many more variables. That was probably the least prepared I'd ever felt for a competition, just being such a new blue belt. But it went pretty well. So it went 2 submissions, and I did lose in the semis, but it was a much better match. I think if I'd gone into that match thinking I can beat this guy, rather than like, all right, I made it to the semis, this is good enough, that I could have beat him. But that's a story for a different day.
Did you notice the intensity was vastly different than the way you normally train?
Oh yeah, for sure.
that was the biggest difference to me. Is like I just like you, I didn't know what to expect. Right, I don't know what's going on. Like as soon as they started the match, it was like I thought the guy was trying to kill me. Like from the get-go. And I was like, when the day was over and I went back to class on Monday, that same intensity was still with me. So I was just like running through everyone. And I was like, I got to calm down. This is not competition. Like
maybe 5 or 6 weeks before that Pan Am's, I'd started to train a little bit with a guy named Jacob Harmon. He's a wrestling coach. He was a coach at Calvary Chapel High School out here, Church Boys Wrestling, which every year they were having 1 or 2 state champions. He's Coach Morgan McIntosh, is Big Ten champion from Penn State. A lot of jiu-jitsu guys help them with their wrestling, the Buchecha, all the Gracie Baja guys I did strength and conditioning for. So I started training some wrestling stuff with him. Jacob wrestled for Arizona State, like a contemporary of like Dan Severin era.
Oh, it's one of my favorites.
He's about 5'8", 270 of everyday wrestling for the last 35 years of his life. Like, wrestlers are fucking crazy.
Yeah, they are strong too.
Yeah,
Holy
they are.
crap.
He's the wrestler that other wrestlers are like, oh, that guy's fucking crazy. And so training with him for a couple of weeks, like that definitely helped me turn the intensity up in training. So I felt prepared there, and he's a very like rah rah guy, and I'm like real laid back, and it was the same way for powerlifting. And so he's sitting up there in the stands at Pan Am's with my girlfriend Marissa, and he's like, why isn't he more like fired up? And Marissa knows from powerlifting, like I'd be having a conversation like this in the back room, and then laughing, joking, whatever, and then they're gonna say, Chad Smith, bars loaded, and it don't take me one second, and now we're ready to go. And she's like, it'll be fine, it'll be fine, and he'll switch it on. And then she said like 5 seconds into the match where this song just snapped this guy down right off the bat, and Jacob's like, oh, okay, well, I guess.
Yeah, I remember watching that final match. I think it was Flow Grappling put it on their Instagram, I believe. But I was like, oh crap, there goes Chad Wesley Smith, and I was like, and someone bigger than him. Holy crap! That's like I felt like you guys were like locked up with each other, just like stalemating for a good minute. But I'm sure it felt even longer for you as you were like standing there, huh?
Yeah, then we like crashed through the barrier on the outside. And, yeah, that one drew a lot of attention. In is Thursday afternoon or whatever when blue belts are competing. So it's kind of slow in there, but I had so many people come up after, and I was watching your match, and you guys are fucking huge.
So you have that new Juggernaut Strength and Conditioning for BJJ now, the AI, right? I was doing that. I've been doing that for we just started another one, but I had done that one for months, and I absolutely loved it. And it was cool to see because I come from like a CrossFit background, and when I first started CrossFit, the big thing was if you're not dying by the end of the workout, then you obviously didn't try hard enough. And then now it's kind of shifting to kind of like what you have in your programming of like reps in reserve, RIR. Can you explain like the philosophy behind that a little bit, and if people should or shouldn't be kind of incorporating that into their strength and conditioning for jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, so I mean, RIR, RPE stuff aside, I think training for jiu-jitsu, strength and conditioning for jiu-jitsu, people conflate the idea of like one of the biggest mistakes they make is they try and do a powerlifting or a weightlifting or a strongman or a CrossFit program or whatever for jiu-jitsu performance. And that's just not the best way to do it. So training that supports jiu-jitsu performance is, enough on these different movement patterns to help improve maximal strength and explosive strength and strength endurance, but not too much to take away from the jiu-jitsu training side of things. That getting like married to this is the best exercise, that is the best exercise is a big mistake, because now even today in the garage with my guys, if someone's like, oh coach, this is bugging my shoulder, all right, let's change it, because I don't care if you bench press or if you squat or if you deadlift or, there's no best exercise for jiu-jitsu. The best jiu-jitsu exercise is jiu-jitsu. Like the only irreplaceable part of an athlete's training is their sport practice. For powerlifting, squat, bench, and deadlift is your sport practice. For weightlifting, snatch and clean and jerk is your sport practice. But for jiu-jitsu, it doesn't matter if you're going to front squat, back squat, box squat, belt squat, safety squat, bar, landmine squat, the list goes on. Get some squat movement pattern in, the one that the athlete can, do safely, that their technique is good at, that they can create some output at, because we are there to get stronger, and that fits within the context of their plan. So approaching it that way is, what I try and do. And then then it becomes the idea of like, how heavy should you lift for BJJ? And I have a whole YouTube video about this if people want to watch that. But training, in the same way that using a powerlifting or a weightlifting program for jiu-jitsu training is an error, chasing strength numbers for the sake of strength, like it's not like there's I was saying to one of my guys I was coaching this morning, he's like, well, was that good? He trap bar deadlifted 150 kilos, 330 for 10. He's a black belt lightweight guy, even maybe one below lightweight. It was like 148. And I was like, you're strong enough now. Like, so I do have some like standard kind of things. Like I think if a jiu-jitsu competitor can deadlift 2.5 times their body weight, squat 2 times their body weight, either or one of those, do 3 pull-ups with 50% of their body weight added on to them, and bench 1.25, 1.5 times their body weight, and all for triples, and all those that you're as strong as you would ever need to be. Hamlo Bahal is the strongest jiu-jitsu guy I've ever encountered. He was much stronger with the barbell than the other, high-level black belts that I was training. He deadlifted 500 at 195 body weight, which for the jiu-jitsu guys, that was like, oh shit, he's, order of magnitude ahead of everyone. If you go to a powerlifting meet, a guy who deadlifts 500 at 195s, no one's batting an eye about that. Like, here's your 7th place ribbon. Congratulations. So that level of strength is not something that requires specific strength, specific powerlifting training to develop. It should almost be developed it's a byproduct of well-designed training. So doing stuff that's, 2-3 reps in reserve, 7-8 RPE, not going for true maximums and not going to failure all the time, it's not going to impose as much fatigue on you as the training for powerlifting specifically would, or bodybuilding or weightlifting or whatever, where you're pushing for maximums or pushing to muscular failure. And it's going to get you plenty strong enough for jiu-jitsu. And, because it's all has to be developed in concert with each other. It's not like when you get to, if all right, Chad said 2.5 times body weight deadlift, that's the good thing for jiu-jitsu. So I'm going to do this deadlift program and I'm going to get to 2.5 times body weight. And then they're going to put this special stripe on my belt that says 2.5 times body weight deadlift. I'm better at jiu-jitsu at 2.5 times. Why am I not choking this guy out? Well, probably because while you were doing a fucking deadlift program, that guy was training jiu-jitsu.
Right.
So it's all got to fit together. So most of the guys that I coach, they train jiu-jitsu, or they lift 2 or 3 times a week. They might do 2 or 3 more tempo sessions. And, a lot of them are training jiu-jitsu 6 to 10 times a week. So it's all fitting it together. I know when Homolo was at his peak, competing back 2010, 11, 12, he was training 18 sessions a week. So 12 jiu-jitsu, 3 lifting, and 3 conditioning. So, and that just has to be managed. And for those guys, that's a lifetime of work capacity being built up. But yeah, like you don't need to train for max weights all the time like a powerlifter would, and that's lifting to maximum all the time is not the best way to train for powerlifting either. It's even worse for jiu-jitsu. So it's like every day can be modulated by how you feel. Jiu-jitsu guys are always getting little injuries, this and that. So taking 10 pounds less one day or changing an exercise to something that feels comfortable for the day, it's all fine.
Yeah, we put some feelers out there for people that wanted to ask questions specifically towards like your specialty. And one question that I got was someone wanted to know the pros and cons to belt squats, and kind of like if they just started in jiu-jitsu, they're a brand new white belt, and they want to know if it kind of benefits towards jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, so like I said, the type of squat that you choose is not so significant. There's 3 criteria I look at for exercise selection. I have a YouTube video about this called the best exercise for jiu-jitsu, or the 6 best exercises for jiu-jitsu, something like that. And the answer to it is that there's not best exercises. There's movement patterns: squat, press, pull, hip hinge, hip extension, twist, carry. You do those things, you train your neck directly, you've got a good jiu-jitsu program. What you choose to fit into that category, the squat category, could be high bar, ass to grass, back squats. It could be low bar squats, box squats, front squat, specialty bar. Belt squat's a great option in that, because the criteria of using it for your program is the athlete can, do it well with good technique. They can create some strength stimulus with it, so they can go heavy enough to help them get stronger, which is the point of lifting weight for sport performance. And it fits within the context of their program. That's something like happens more with me and my football guys. If they have, they're in a period where they're doing a lot of sprinting, then box squats, which are a little bit less fatiguing, is probably a better option than the squat without a box. And for the jiu-jitsu guys, belt squat will always be a good option, because your low back just takes a lot of stress from jiu-jitsu, especially for guard players. If you're inverting and doing that kind of stuff, like, man, there's rough positions of deep flexion, flexion under load, flexion and rotation together. So not compounding stress on your low back with conventional deadlifting and high or low bar squatting is probably a great decision if you have access to a belt squat, because what we're trying to do is train your legs, train the squatting pattern, and make your legs stronger, not necessarily make your squat stronger, because how much you can squat, if that's what mattered, where's my black belt world? They never gave me one.
Where's the patch for my gi? It says I squat heavy.
So a belt squat's a great option, because you can train your legs hard and heavy, and without that extra stress on the low back, which is already getting stressed so much by your regular jiu-jitsu training.
I think that and neck, that's what I get straining the most in jiu-jitsu, neck and lower back for sure. Yeah, I even ordered, my wife got me an iron neck, so I'm trying that out. We'll see how it goes.
We got the iron neck in the garage. I think I got to send it in though. They got to repair it for me, because Philippe was turning it up too tight, and then it was to maximum. And my guy Neiman Gracie, a Bellator fighter, would come in and be like, "Oh, I got to turn this down." And I think the iron neck got confused by the big swings and tension that it was being presented with those two.
Yeah. So, oh man, I forgot I was going to say on my buddy had one more question. He was, oh no, I feel stupid now. I completely forgot. I lost my train of thought. Yeah, the iron neck completely threw me off. Like, I pictured it in my head of like John sitting there in his bedroom, just so. So you used to, John pointed out. I saw a Twitter video of you. It was probably like, I don't know, 2016 is when I saw this video. But it made me laugh because you had boat shoes on and you were about to do some powerlifting.
Well, I want to make sure I got that right too. I was thinking about that today before you. Did you say you wore ballerina slippers, but you lost one?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if I made that up in my head or not. So I was like, I ain't gonna say no, he's a big dude. But
like ballet slippers, because you have to have a sole on your shoe. You can't just be in your socks per the rules. So that was the closest thing that existed to a sock. I wasn't gonna wear. I'd rather wear a ballet slipper than like a Vibram 5 fingers. And now they make there's powerlifting companies that make sock-like shoes that almost look like water socks, kind of things that people will deadlift in, but that didn't exist in 2011 or 12, whenever this was. So I'm at the meet and I'm looking at my bag, and I only have one ballet slipper with me. So it was either my squat, my weightlifting shoes, or my Sperry topsiders, which I wear all the time. Great fat guy shoe, don't have to bend down to tie it, So I was like, okay, I'll just wear those, and it felt good. It was like a very thin, hard, flat sole, and so I just kind of, it started out of necessity at the moment, and then continued partly out of practicality, partly out of people thinking it was funny, I think. But yeah, deadlift in those. So
Didn't you hit a personal record with those on?
yeah, I mean,
See,
every
I wouldn't change it then. I'd wear it everywhere I went. Probably grocery shopping, everything. Like, wouldn't
probably
care.
every deadlift session for 4 years, 5 years. Still never. Sperry contacted me one time that they were going to send me some, and then they never did. So
Oh,
I guess that could have been a new market for them.
Sperry, if you're listening to this, you done messed up. Just throwing that out there. So I remember what my question was. So you mentioned kind of like training in jiu-jitsu to better at jiu-jitsu, right? When it comes to like cardio for jiu-jitsu, besides rolling 5-10 minutes at a time, what would you recommend kind of like anaerobic and aerobic exercising to kind of help? Because you need to have a balance in both, right? To make sure that you can get better all around, right?
Yeah. So the most significant thing is going to be training more jiu-jitsu, but that comes at a really high cost. You know, you get beat up training a lot of jiu-jitsu. So when you need to improve your conditioning and just training more jiu-jitsu is, the cost outweighs the benefit there. The most significant thing that I want people to include is some kind of either low intensity, steady state aerobic work, swimming, biking, particularly are options I like, or we'll have them do these tempo circuits. So the way we organize a tempo circuit is 30 to 45 seconds of cyclical aerobic activity. That's usually either exercise bike, air bike, rower, ski erg, jump rope, swimming. You can do it with running. You could do it with even just like kind of high knees in place. Go 30 to 45 seconds of that at about 70-75% of output, which if you're doing something like the air bike or the rower is really nice because, at some point just establish what, like the rower, let's say, if you do an all out 500 meters on the rower, you know that 120 is maximum speed for you, is the best pace that you can get. So take, 75% of that speed. So a minute 20 times 1.25. And let's say that that's a minute 50. So you want to row at 150 pace for 45 seconds. Then you set like a little interval timer, 45 seconds on, 15-second transition, then 45 seconds of low level calisthenic corrective exercise, push-ups, abs, ring rows, whatever kind of bird dog, dead bug stuff you might need to do to keep healthy, neck exercises, and then that for 45 seconds, 15-second transition, back on the bike or the rower or whatever. I'll just keep going back and forth like that, 20 to 40 minutes. That both improves aerobic capacity and should enhance recovery when done properly. If you go too hard on it, it's going to add some fatigue. Too easy, you won't get your heart rate high enough to develop aerobic capacity. But in that sweet spot of about 70-75% output, you're getting the best of both worlds there with improved aerobic capacity and improved recovery. I had one of my training partners, a brown belt, a police officer, trains hard jiu-jitsu lifting, and he had switched from another program and started doing our BJJ AI stuff. And he's like, man, these tempos, like, at first I was like, these are kind of boring. I thought they were bullshit. And then he takes his HRV, he uses like the Whoop band and takes his HRV every morning. He's like, my HRV score is up like 30 points on average from this after about a month of doing those. So I think that those are the most overlooked things. A lot of times the jiu-jitsu guys, they get in the gym and they want to turn the gym into conditioning as well and do these really hard circuits and stuff. And it's like, that's just do more jiu-jitsu then, because that's coming at the same energetic cost. And that's something that I used to have guys do all the time back in the day. And as I look at the change, from 2010, 11, 12, when I was coaching a lot of jiu-jitsu guys to now the last year or so, as I picked up doing a lot of that again, that's probably the biggest change is we're in the weight room to get strong. So we're just focused on really high quality movement and making sure that the guys stay healthy, and then complementing that with the low level aerobic stuff with the tempos, and let jiu-jitsu take care of the rest. Sometimes we'll do some alactic capacity training. So if we were to look at alactic power, is like one time, how high, how far, how fast can you jump, throw, how explosively can you lift. Alactic capacity is the ability to repeat that high level effort over and over. So let's say if your best box jump is 42 inches, and you can do one, well, if you shoot a blast double right off the bat and make it, great. But 5 minutes later, if you got no juice left in you. So this is a kind of a marriage of alactic power, because you got to have, if your fastest and most explosive isn't fast and explosive enough, it doesn't matter how many times you can repeat it. So you got to have the power before the capacity. So you develop that big power and aerobic capacity alongside of it. Then we can do some specific alactic capacity training too, which we usually do as like 3 to 6 seconds of very intense work, like maybe 3 kettlebell squat jumps, then rest for 10 to 20 seconds, depending on the athlete's fitness level, then go again. And over the course of like 3 weeks, maybe the first week we do 6 sets, 8 sets, 10 sets, deload. And we'll have a couple different exercises like that, typically following the same idea of the, category-based stuff. So we're looking for a jump, an explosive push. So that could be like clapping push-ups, push-ups on the boxes, medicine ball throws, explosive pull, and explosive twists. So like barbell Russian twists, twisting med ball, slams, a lot of different options, but something that you can go really hard, for just a couple seconds on, interspersed with short rest periods.
Yeah, it's funny as you mentioned all that stuff. I'm like playing out my programming in my head.
Great.
That I did for you. I was like, man, I remember doing all the med ball slams, med ball throws for like warm ups, right? And I was like reading through your description of everything. You're like, you always want to start off with like some sort of explosive movement to get your body moving, like clapping push ups, like you said, or depth push ups, or things like that. And so when you mentioned that, I was just like literally running it through my head. I was like, yeah, I remember all of those things in my programming. So, go ahead. Sorry.
So we have, we have the BJJ AI stuff right now, but we just released our Juggernaut AI app, which is powerlifting. Next, we'll add powerlifting, and Jiu-Jitsu is actually going to get its whole own app that should be out in like June or July. And with that, people will be able to select like what focus they want. If they want to focus more on strength, more on speed and power, more on endurance, it'll give them a focus program to that. If they have a tournament coming up, they'll just tell it, my tournament is this date. It'll create an individualized, periodized program to lead up to that tournament. Or a type of program we have a lot of guys doing right now, we call it a lifestyle program, for guys who maybe they're going to compete once or twice a year, or they just want to train jiu-jitsu at their school and feel better and move better and look better. So that's kind of like a nonstop, more concurrent periodization system that incorporates all the stuff I'm talking about, and different, training for strength and speed and endurance, but all mixed together quite a bit more.
I'll definitely be partaking of that. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, so a lot of the warm-ups that you have in the AI, I keep talking about it because, like I said, I loved it, and I did it for so long. I actually found myself wondering, like, what if we did some of these movements as a warm-up for a jiu-jitsu class? If you were to lead a jiu-jitsu warm-up in class, would you throw in some of those warm-ups in the warm-up for a class?
100%. Philippe and I were just talking about that today. Like, even just with the bear crawl series movements that we use, like that would lend itself, I think, really well. So Gracie Baja headquarters where I train, it's not uncommon to have, especially pre-COVID, 30 to 50 guys in a class. So with that, we're all kind of on our spots doing the Gracie Baja warm up. But we could all be on those spots, in bear crawl position, which is warming up your shoulders, which is warming up your abs. And so go bear crawl shoulder touches, bird dog from bear crawl. They do like a sit out kind of rotational stuff. We rotate from bear crawl into like a crab walk position and hip extend with that. And then you get into moving, forward, backward, lateral bear crawls is warming up everything. But yeah, all that kind of stuff. I mean, breathe, 90-90 breathing, bird dogs, dead bugs, not unsurprisingly, I have another video about like injury prevention for jiu-jitsu.
I'll do that one too then.
And, that video is with a black belt named Julian Vanderlinden, who's just finishing up his doctorate in physical therapy, and showing different exercises to, all right, if you're having neck issues, try this, shoulder issues, try this, low back, try this kind of thing. But there's a lot of stuff I think about just regular jiu-jitsu classes, but my interest more in the structure of competitive jiu-jitsu training that could really be improved. I think a lot of jiu-jitsu is very based in tradition, and a lot of that tradition was in my garage an hour ago. So I don't want to say it was a bad way to do it, but a lot of the competitive jiu-jitsu training seems like it's, let's get as many tough guys in the same room as we can together and come out the other side tougher, but not with much of a mind to periodization of different types of drills and long-term development and long-term planning, where I think that there is a lot to be improved there.
Jon, you got any more questions? I know you did a lot of research. He was talking earlier. I got so many questions.
Well, I mean, we talked about pretty much everything, but I mean, this topic for me, it means a lot. Like I'm always looking at like, how can I get stronger? How can my endurance get better? How can I prevent these injuries? And I'm a little bit older than Travis, but
just a little bit,
and especially for like the guys, we got a couple guys in our gym that are in their 40s, 50s, and it's like, the pace is a little bit different. We have to look at different ways of keeping in shape without getting injured and, rolling with the younger guys. So, that's
those white belts do spaz.
Something I'm always looking for.
So what's next for you there, Chad?
We're right now just working on these apps a lot. So we've got our powerlifting, our Juggernaut AI app, kind of our flagship with the powerlifting in that we released in December. So we've still got to add to that power building, weightlifting, super total, kind of just a general strength and conditioning. Think more like CrossFit with planning into that. And then we're going to have the Jiu-Jitsu app, which I think at some point, we'll also add other combat sports into it, MMA, wrestling, boxing, and then maybe a endurance sports one as well, from everything from you want to try and squat 500 and run a 5-minute mile combined kind of idea to ultra marathon, Ironman, triathlon, everything in between in that regard. So just doing a lot of work and that side of things. As far as like competing in jiu-jitsu for me, if I feel like I'm in good shape and there's something that sounds fun, I might jump in it. But when I did Worlds and Pan Ams, the only way I know to compete really is to go all in. So that was 6 days a week jiu-jitsu, a couple days strength and conditioning, a couple days extra conditioning, and just feeling beat up most of the time. And then if my girlfriend wanted to go for a hike or my buddies wanted to play golf, it was like, oh man, I just really don't know if I can. So now I'm only 30. I'm 34, but I've spent 30 years of my life competing in something, from AYSO soccer to football and track and powerlifting, strongman, jiu-jitsu. That now I would consider myself a professional hobbyist. So I do some jiu-jitsu. I have fun with that. I play some golf. I lift some weights. But more just coaching and teaching.
Any frisbee golf? You play any frisbee golf?
I have not dabbled.
Oh, come on, Chad. We real quick, we played when we were in San Diego last time, and I was like, oh man, frisbee golf, it doesn't sound that exerting. I was sweating so profusely by the end of it. It was amazing how hard it actually was.
You're throwing that thing as hard as you can over and over again.
Yeah.
It was good.
I was terrible at it too. So, Chad, if one question we always like to ask people when they come on is, because we try to target the show since we started it as white belts, and we were trying to get advice for other white belts. What would you give white belts starting their jiu-jitsu journey right now? What advice would you give them?
Oh, I think the classic stuff of setting the ego aside. if you're coming from a background similar to me in the strength sports, then take the advice that Philippe gave you the first day: train like you're weak. It's if you are proficient enough in the techniques to do them without using your strength, when you start using the strength, it's only gonna be more useful. Don't worry about winning all your matches in class. Like, just be humble, take advice where you can get it, and just enjoy yourself. It's a phenomenal community. Like, so many great people I've met. I got to train jiu-jitsu, several places across the country now. Trained in Australia, Ireland, so it's fun.
I'm glad you mentioned Australia. I did forget about that, but I did listen to you on one of your previous interviews, and you said Australia was one of your favorite places. And
I've been five times, 6 times.
5 times. Holy crap.
Me too, but it was always just Perth or Tasmania. You went to a couple different places, and I was like, man, it made me miss it. I was like, I miss Australia. That was always a good time.
Yeah, I've only been to both of those places, Perth and Tasmania, once each. Brisbane, probably my favorite part. Melbourne was where I've been the most. Sydney, been there 2 or 3 times. Sydney might as well just be California. It's nice place, but I felt like I was in like a more expensive cross between LA and San Francisco in Sydney. So that's whatever.
Last question: would you recommend people try some competitions? A lot of people are like real against it. They've never done it. They get real nervous. Or would you say, at least try it once?
I think that's different for everybody. For me, I never thought for a second I'm not doing this to compete. I started jiu-jitsu the first day. I'm going to compete in this because that's all I've done my whole life. But now, as I'm in my professional hobbyist stage, I see it can be something that you get a ton out of without ever competing. But if people do have that inkling to compete, I think it's great. It puts extra accountability on you to train harder, to dial in your diet, to do all that stuff for that period of time. And if you like it, keep doing it. If you like just training at the school, that's fine too.
Well, that's a great question to end on. Chad, where can people find you at if they want to follow you and see how big you actually are in person?
My Instagram, which is basically just posts about Juggernaut AI and an extremely rare post of anything about myself personally, at Chad Wesley Smith, at Juggernaut Training. Both of those on Instagram. jtsstrength.com is our website where you can find all of our coaching stuff. Juggernaut Training Systems YouTube. If you have a question about how to lift weights for anything, I probably have a video about it. We have like 1,500 videos that give the very, some people may have heard the things I said on here and be like, man, this is really in depth. Whatever I said on here, I got a video that's like 10 times more in depth.
So real quick, I just remembered, I used to listen to your podcast with Max, and you guys had the best logo for your podcast you stole from Step Brothers. Do you guys still do that podcast? I couldn't find it on Google Podcasts
I think
today.
You have 3 podcasts now, don't you?
I've done several. I mean, my main ones are Jug Life podcast, and then I did Beers with Chad. Jug Life, I don't even know when the last time we did one was. Beers with Chad, I was doing a lot at the beginning of the pandemic, and then I was like, fuck, I'm drinking too much beer. So I've kind of...
That's why we don't bring this in here anymore. We got to have...
We used to bring 6 packs or a whole bottle, and then they were done by the end of the podcast.
We're like sitting there like, man, that was a great podcast, man.
Yeah. So I've been meaning to ramp the Beers with Chad brand up and kind of making that, its own thing from Juggernaut, because, once you talk to one person about how they train their squat, you talk to them all. So that would be kind of be like just really everything that I like. So it would be some podcasts, about lifting, about golf, about jiu-jitsu, about, business development, about pop culture, whatever it is. So I will be bringing that one back. I'm just Just revving myself up.
Well, hey, Chad, I want to say thank you very much for giving us your time today to come on the show and talk jiu-jitsu and BS. There's more we could have gone into, but I know you're a super busy man, so we don't want to keep you too long. So I appreciate that, man.
Yeah. My pleasure, guys.
So, all right, well, guys, thank you so much for watching at home. Remember, you can watch this on YouTube and whatever. John, you got anything else?
No, man, thank you. It was great.
Yeah. Hey, guys, thanks for watching and listening. And remember, no oil checks here.
I'm not saying it.
Come on, just say it, man. You got to say it one time. All right. All right, later, guys.